We already know Tyler sucks. What can Duncan do again? We already know Tyler stinks. What can Duncan do again?
Total Drama Island was one of my favorite shows growing up. Its huge varied cast, easy to get hooked on premise, and how geniusly it parodied the tropes of reality TV made it one of the standout cartoons of the late 2000s. But the main appeal, at least to an ever-growing 10-year-old me, was its edge. Whenever I watched the show as a kid, I'd be greeted by that TV PG parental warning and knew I was in for something different. No other show on Cartoon Network was using that warning before it, at least the ones I watched back then. The whole show had this edge that not many other kid shows at the time had. I mean, not many other shows were willing to show vomit on screen, or have pixelated censored bars for the nudity. It made the show feel like the natural bridge between Cartoon Network and Adult Swim. But what young, naive me didn't know at the time was how wild this show was airing in its home country. See, I mentioned Total Drama Island airing on Cartoon Network, but that was only in the US. It actually originated in Canada and aired on Teletoon. Basically CN, but for Canada. I remember first finding this out while the first season was still airing here. I was obsessed with this show and I wanted to research everything about it. And well, I learned it already aired its whole season in Canada and in turn, got the whole finale spoiled for me. Whoops. But that's not the only thing I learned. The most shocking thing for me was finding out that the version I was watching was a heavily butchered censored version that was less edgy than the show actually was. No joke. This shocked the world of a prepubescent me. Watching that version on YouTube and seeing them use words unheard of for a Cartoon Network show like crap, and sucks, and stupid, and shut up. Okay, what the heck? Yes, the show was heavily edited when brought over to the US. Different countries have different types of censors, and Cartoon Network decided to go full Kidz Bop on the first season. We'll go over some of the major edits and the minor ones. The most notable ones here are the dialogue changes. It's not really too noticeable when you're watching the censored version, but let me tell ya, once you see the original, you'll never unhear it. Take a look at this major edit in the first episode.
Communal bathrooms? But I'm not Catholic.
Not communion, communal.
Where's the spa? I'm confused.
Wow, that's a shocker.
I love it when the edit kills the joke they're trying to make. Here, it's an obvious play on words that communion sounds like communal. But I guess a slight religious joke is a bit too risque for little apple pie loving Merkin Timmy to hear, so here we got a generic line about spas. What's funny is how off the lip syncing is in this version.
Wow, that's a shocker.
Needless to say, when I first found out about this, I was obsessed with seeing how much got changed and how noticeable it really was. The most common one you'll see through all of this is editing certain words. Most commonly, sucks, crap, and fricking. Now, I get it. Those were pretty dicey words for kid shows to have over here, except not really.
What's this crap?
But that was in the 90s, when the censors were drunk and asleep. This was the late 2000s, different times. It's kind of funny, because a few years later, shows like Regular Show would be using these words regularly. No pun intended. And even as a kid, I remember there being certain words you weren't allowed to say beyond the swear words, and it was usually these words. I sort of considered them pseudo-swears. They've definitely become more commonplace in kid shows more recently. I remember Steven Universe dropping them sometimes, but this was before all that. The common word to replace sucks with was stink, which, okay, that sounds natural.
It's 2-0. How does it feel to suck so much? It's 2-0. How does it feel to so much?
This, however, does not. What happened here? Why would they just straight up cut it out? Was it really hard to ask the VA to record another instance of saying stinks? They were doing it every other time. Crap was usually replaced with oh no or oh man or something to that extent. And frickin' would get replaced with stupid, which is ironic because...
Who needs this stupid TV show anyway? Who needs this lame-o TV show anyway?
Stupid would also get edited. They were super inconsistent with what word is fine and what wasn't, and for the life of me, I can't tell why. It's not considered a bad word unless you're 5 years old, and a lot of other kids shows were using that word before, especially on Cartoon Network.
You're so stupid! 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 Stupid!
Even ignoring that clip, you've heard it a lot on shows like Billy and Mandy and Ed, Edd n Eddy. I'm not sure if at the time CN was trying to crack down on that word because some Karen mom complained, but who knows. The most pointless one, though, was shut up. Frequently, they'd edit it to shut it or zip it, as if those literally don't mean the same thing. Which, again, that was also used by a lot of kid shows. Going back to what I said earlier, the worst edits for me were ones that just completely annihilated the joke.
National symbol and a damn fine hat.
Ugh, stink.
National symbol and a real fine hat.
Ugh, stink.
Like, I get it. Damn is a word that goes a lot harder than even crap, but still, you ruined a perfectly good pun. Besides, what you changed it to doesn't really justify their groan afterwards. Heck, sometimes these edits will just kill an entire scenario. One of the most memorable episodes of the first season was Brunch of Disgustingness, where the contestants are forced to eat disgusting food, and their first meal is...
It's beef testicle bourguignon.
Yeah, that. But we can't say that word, so what gross thing shall we replace it with?
It's beef meatballs bourguignon.
But that actually sounds pretty good. How is that disgusting? Could you just not say that meat was old or rotten or something? It wouldn't explain why only the guys are disgusted by this, but it's still better than calling it something that's commonly edible. I'm honestly surprised with all the small things they edited. The more famous adult moments like topless Heather got to stay in. The only thing that got changed here was instead of Harold saying,
Boobies.
he says,
Booyah.
I mean, it kinda gets the same idea across, but they left one in.
And I saw boobies.
I can really tell they were really trying to get out of having to say that word as much as they could, thinking of as many safe alternatives as possible.
So, Harold saw your chest?
But my personal favorite ones, and probably the edits that are the most infamous, are when they edited censored swears. You heard me right. They censored something that was literally designed to censor something. See, I guess Cartoon Network didn't like even the idea of having a character swearing, so they decided to find any way around it. It was pretty easy for the first time they used it.
Oh,
That's easy to just cut out. However, there's two instances where they don't. One was in the episode Tri-Arm Triathlon, where Owen, after being handcuffed to Heather for the whole episode and getting sick of her bullshit, decides to, let out his frustration.
she is the meanest, the nastiest, the big in all of Kalamazoo!
A perfectly shocking twist that subverts Owen's more friendly nature up to that point. Let's see what CN did here.
She is the meanest, the nastiest, the biggest cold-hearted meanie in all of Kalamazoo!
Okay, generic schoolyard insults. I guess in a way it gets the same idea across, but not as well. But that's not what you're here for. You're here to see me talk about the big one. The episode That's Off the Chain is a very simple challenge on paper, a bike race. However, the twist in this is that the last camper to cross the finish line gets auto-eliminated. Lindsay crosses second, but gets eliminated because Owen and Duncan wiped out. The show is known for having BS-contrived moments that are used to justify an elimination. Get used to it. Heather, who was stringing her along in an alliance for protection, feels no sympathy for her quote-unquote friend getting eliminated. This enrages Lindsay, and causes one of the first season's most famous moments.
Like how you're a two-faced, backstabbing, lying little...
This moment was great. It was cathartic in showing Lindsay finally standing up to Heather after being treated like dirt up to that point, and the swearing really brought the point home in showing her anger to her that was slowly building up. And to fit in with being one of the best moments of the show, this is Cartoon Network's worst edit of the season.
Like how you're a two-faced, backstabbing, lying little... No good, selfish, heartless, pushy, bossy, mean, bully of a girl!
This is just stupid. The editing on this is just bad overall. The lip syncing is off, the music cutting out during this part doesn't make sense in this context, and most importantly, it ruins the impact of the scene. Replacing the beat with a bunch of cruddy kindergarten tier insults ruins any type of build-up and leads the whole thing as anticlimactic. Also, bully of a girl sounds like an insult a preschooler would make up, not a 16-year-old girl. After the first season, the edits started to lessen as each season went on. There were still a few big ones, most notably a whole scene in the 3rd season that was cut where Cody falls into the Statue of Liberty's breasts. No, I'm not kidding. But the edits got fewer and farther in between. This can be sourced to fan outcry, and even outcry from the crew. There's actually this interview with co-creator Tom McGillis that brings this up. It became a big issue for fans of Cartoon Network, and they were telling the network you don't need to protect us from words like sucks and idiot. Considering they did relent on this after Backlash, I imagine this was CN getting overly paranoid with some of the more adult contents of this show, and being so afraid of nasty letters that they overcompensated. This led to this botched version of the show that ended up getting on the DVD release and even the Netflix version. No joke, I remember at one point the Netflix version was the uncensored version, then at some point later they changed it to this dumb version because I don't know. You'd think with how much the creators denounced it, they try to bury it, but you know, gotta protect Little American Timmy and his apple pies. And you know what? All these edits stink. They're a load of crud. They're the most lame-o, yucky edits ever, and they can go suck on a beef meatballs. Oh, son of a Bill!